After many of the disciples left off from following Jesus, we have what is known as the second retreat. And this happened first in the coast of the heathen. For the next several months, a large part of Jesus' time would be spent giving special instruction to the disciples so that they could come to a clearer understanding of his character and mission. In order to get away from the crowds, Jesus and the disciples retreated to the region of Phoenicia. It was impossible, however, for him to hide, and soon a Syrophoenician woman, a descendant of the Canaanites that had inhabited this area before the Israelites had conquered the Promised Land, came to plead for mercy for her daughter. In extreme distress, she cried out, "O Lord, thou Son of David, my daughter is grievously vexed with the devil." And as strange as it may seem, Jesus did not respond to her request. When his disciples came, they insisted that he send her away, for she cried out unto them. Nevertheless, she continued her pleading until Jesus finally turned and said, "I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Undeterred by this rebuff, the woman worshiped Jesus and beseeched him, crying, "Lord, help me." And Jesus responded, "It's not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs." He was trying the woman's faith. He was trying her humility. He wanted her to recognize that it was no little thing that she was professing and asking. So he reminded her of the wide breach between the Jews and the Gentiles. The Jews thought of themselves as God's children and the Gentiles as dogs. And she answered, "Truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat from the crumbs which fall from their master's table." In reality, she was asking for what the children, Israel, were rejecting. Moved by her response, Jesus replied, "Woman, great is thy faith. Be it unto thee even as thou wilt." And through humility and persistent prayer, devoted love and great faith, the woman secured the physical cure of her daughter. This incident reveals Jesus to us as the master interpreter of the human heart, the skilled teacher of his apostles, and the wise builder of his kingdom. We then have what is known as the third retreat, and this involves the feeding of the 4,000 in Decapolis. Jesus departed from the coast of Tyre and Sidon and went to Decapolis, the area of the 10 allied Greek cities that lay east of the Jordan. The people there brought a deaf and partly dumb man to Jesus to be healed, and consequently, crowds began to gather, bringing their lame, their blind, the dumb, the maimed, and many others. Jesus poured out his love out to them in healing until they were filled with amazement at seeing the dumb speak, and the cripple made whole, and the lame walk, and the blind see. The multitude continued to grow. For 3 days the people held on, sleeping on the ground at night, eagerly pressing around the great miracle worker by the day, and hoping that they might witness every wonder and catch every word from his mouth. Then, moved with compassion for the multitude, Jesus took 7 loaves of bread and a few fish. He gave thanks for them, and he fed the 4,000 men, plus the women and the children. After the people had eaten their fill, they took up 7 baskets full of broken meat, and Jesus then sent the people away and sailed with his disciples to the coasts of Magdala. The next main event that we want to focus on in the life of Christ is Peter's great confession. Now an outlaw in most of Galilee, Jesus and the disciples made a brief trip to Bethsaida, where Jesus healed a blind man, and then traveled on to the region of Caesarea Philippi, where he visited the villages in the area. He devoted most of his time, however, to the private, confidential instruction and discussion with the 12 apostles. At one point, when they were away from the crowd, in Luke chapter 9, and after their hour of prayer, they were walking along the way, and Jesus asked his disciples, "Whom say the people that I am?" One of the disciples answered, "John the Baptist." And another said, "Elias," speaking of Elijah. And a third responded, "A prophet of old, risen from the dead." Jesus then went to the heart of the matter, and probing their perception, he asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" And in sublime eloquence, Peter summarized Jesus' nature and office, stating, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus blessed Peter for receiving this revelation. He said, "Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, Petros, and upon this rock, Petra, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." And this was the first time Jesus revealed his plan to build a church. Contrary to the teaching of some groups, the rock upon which Jesus built his church is not the personage of Peter, but the faith of his confession. The true church is founded upon the rock of revelation of the mighty God in Christ. Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Founded upon this rock, the church will remain unconquerable even though assaulted by all the power of darkness. Because of this confession, Peter was given the keys to the kingdom. And the key was the badge of authority. For the servant who had the key to the master's storehouse had authority over all of the master's goods. And note how Peter unlocked the door of the church to the Jews in Acts chapter 2, and to the Samaritans in Acts chapter 8, and to the Gentiles in Acts chapter 10.